just something that we can't really ignore. Like the honeymoon phase is over, guys. It's been 3 months. The game needs a lot of work. Okay, cool. So today we're going to be talking about the state of Monster Hunter Wilds, as we are all very perfectly and painfully aware of. The game is not in a good spot right now, and that's for a lot of reasons, and the majority of the reason is actually predominantly probably because of the PC. But as you guys are painfully aware of, Monster Hunter Wilds is in a terrible spot right now. I'm pretty sure that now that we are about a little bit over 3 months now since the game's release, a lot of us have kind of gotten past the honeymoon phase. I sure as hell have gotten way out of the honeymoon phase. And let's talk about Monster Hunter Wilds, right? The main reason why I even wanted to talk about this is because obviously, you know, we've had some pretty gnarly review bombs on the on Monster Hunter Wilds, specifically for Steam, right? And for a very, very good reason. But you know, we'll kind of get into that. But I have a PowerPoint that I have created for you. So zero scripts, just whatever came to mind. I just made it real quick, and that's basically what you guys are getting today. So yeah, let's get right into it. Okay, so boom, the state of Monster Hunter Wilds. Now, so the mission, we're going to be talking about what review bombing is, some examples of it, the case of Monster Hunter Wilds, what are the issues surrounding the case of Monster Hunter Wilds, the bad and the good of Monster Hunter Wilds. Would I recommend Monster Hunter Wilds? What Capcom could do, what you can do, and some recommended media sources for you to check out in case you want to, you know, maybe formulate your opinions more. A lot of the stuff that I'm about to suggest are probably things that you already know. But, I mean, this is also just good information, maybe good refresher for people that want to stay in the know or stay up to date in the know. I don't think that makes sense in English, but moving on. So, quick disclaimer. I am a Capcom creator. Yes, I am. But my whole point of this is to be objective as much as possible. I'm trying to educate and help create constructive discussions in regards to Monster Hunter Wilds. No, I am not recording. And I will be addressing the issues behind the review bombing on Steam, plus some general criticisms about Monster Hunter Wilds. And just so that everyone's aware, I do play it on PC and PlayStation 5. More accurately, my girlfriend plays on PlayStation 5, but whenever we play together, and I've been sitting on the entirety of her playing on PlayStation, I'm usually in the same room as her. So anytime I see any issues that she's suffering, I can call it or I can notice it, right? That just goes to show you that, you know, I understand the perspective of a console player and a PC player, right? And I also plan on being respectful to all parties, right? So whether you're a Wilds enjoyer or a Wilds hater currently, if you're on the dev team, Capcom team, all of the above, no matter what, the whole idea is just to be respectful to everyone involved, right? Here we go. First off, what's review bombing? Review bombing is a form of online protest, right? Where a large number of people go and basically flock to some kind of review outlet and they plug in a bunch of negative reviews in a short period of time to basically severely impact the overall rating of a product or services. This can range from, you know, social political statements and movements like, you know, Free Taiwan, LGBTQ, all kinds of things can be associated with social political statements / movements. Sometimes people review bomb to express dissatisfaction with a company's direction. Maybe gameplay mechanics have been changed, rewards, all sorts of changes. You know, they want to oppose and show that they dislike certain changes. That's why reviewing bombing can happen. This is especially pretty rampant in gacha games. So for those of you that have played games like games from Hoyoverse, you know, ZZZ, HSR, freaking Genshin Impact, you know, a bunch of gacha games tend to suffer from review bombing for one reason or another. Another reason why people like to review bomb is to help spread misinformation. Now, this sucks, and this is why a lot of the times, you know, especially in this day and age, it is insanely imperative that you fact check, do your research before you adopt a stance or opinion, right? So Just a general reminder to everyone. And you know, sometimes people review bomb because they want to show dislike for a person, a creator, a company, devs, etc. It can be for any number of these reasons. And you normally see review bombing in video games. All platforms aren't free from this. You know, PlayStation got hit by this with Helldivers and whatnot. App Store, gacha games tend to see this a lot. And, you know, I'm sure a bunch of other software apps also get hit by this. And social media, right? Very recently, we had, I think, Mr. Beast get freaking bombed the crap out of with this whole AI generative tool thing for like thumbnails and stuff. So here are some examples in case you've never seen review bombing before. I'm sure you have, but in case you haven't seen it before, in the case of ZZZ, it's social political. And you can see from the screenshot right there, I am severely disappointed with the lack of skin tone diversity as well as the minstrel poster within the game. And then immediately below that, let me see if I can turn on a laser pointer. As you can see right here, super racist company. If you guys don't know, Hoyoverse is oftentimes, you know, they tend to get accused of whitewashing a lot of their characters and being afraid of inclusion of dark-skinned characters. Whether or not that is true or whether you choose to believe that, that's for a different discussion. That's for a different day. That's not what this today is all about. Helldivers 2 is another great example, right? With the whole, you know, forcing players to use a PlayStation account in order to play the game despite not owning a PlayStation account, or even being locked from being able to create a PlayStation account. This is actually from Pirate Software. You guys know him. He's a huge creator. This is another huge example. With this particular one, I won't get too hard into the details, guys. But I mean, with this basically shows the 3rd anniversary rewards for Genshin. A lot of people were pissed because the rewards were basically the same. You got like 10 special pulls and that was it, right? Despite the fact that it was its 3rd year anniversary and a bunch of other gacha games were doing more. So this is just another example of how people will bomb the crap out of a company or game or product to show their displeasure with something, their dissatisfaction with something, and a myriad of different reasons. So this is basically what review bombing is, right? A bunch of people bombing or, you know, flooding a, you know, a game, a product, and basically severely impacting its overall rating by hitting it with a bunch of negative reviews. Okay, cool. Now that we've gotten the definition of review bombing out of the way, let's talk about the case of Monster Hunter Wilds, the main topic of today's PowerPoint that you guys didn't ask for. Now, before we get into it, let's talk about some stats. So the game's been out since the 28th. It's been out on all platforms, Xbox, PlayStation, PC. I think word on the street is that we're going to see a Switch 2 version out in the future. If and when that happens, we don't know, but it'd be cool if it does happen, right? As of the end of March, the game has officially hit over 10 million units and is now officially 7th in Capcom's Platinum titles, meaning that's a huge deal. It's also the first Monster Hunter feature crossplay, and it was also one of the biggest winners at Gamescom. If you guys didn't know, it was for Gamescom 2024. It was the most entertaining, most epic, best Sony PlayStation game, and best trailer. Very cool, very wow. Now let's talk about the reviews, right? As you guys can see right here, the reviews on average seem pretty good, right? On the left, you have PlayStation, which is sitting at a pretty 4.46 out of 5-star rating with 61,000 ratings right there. And with Xbox, it's a lot less in terms of reviews, but I'm assuming that Xbox people, I mean, there's probably not as huge of a fan base on Xbox playing Monster Hunter anyways. Now, the main thing that we'd like to talk about and focus on is Steam. You know why? Look at that. Overwhelmingly negative at 11,000 reviews and mixed at 142,355. Or, so I guess that's the overall, the rating for the game right now, mixing both positive and negative reviews. So this is pretty damn crazy. And, you know, whether or not you think it's deserved or not, it is still something that is worth talking about because this is pretty huge, right? We've seen Monster Hunter be hit with review bombs before. I believe, if I'm not mistaken, Monster Hunter World got hit with it, especially when it came to a Elatrion, right? I don't remember if it happened with Fatalis specifically too, but I remember that being a pretty big deal. A lot of outrage with a lot of people crying about Elatrion. The movie as well, right? Yeah. We don't talk about the Monster Hunter movie outside of an amazing artist by the name of Banshee that worked on the movie for the special effects and monster models and stuff. So now you guys know Shinkrai, right? Shinkrai is an amazing resource when it comes to Monster Hunter news in general and just Monster Hunter information. He actually provided a lot of the sources for today that I'm actually going to be going over, right? So the crazy thing is that Asia is, specifically Japan or Japanese players and Chinese players, are overwhelmingly negative. Like when I say overwhelmingly negative, they're like more than 50% on the negative side. So if you see right here, so there's 67,000 total reviews. Of that 70,000, 18,000 are positive, while 49,000 is negative. That is insanely negative, right? In terms of like ratio. Same thing with Japan, right? Albeit maybe a lot less worse. I can't really like simple math right now, but Japan, 10,000, close to 11,000 reviews, 4,000 positive at 6.5 for negative reviews for Japanese players. So the negative ratio is pretty damn insane, right? Now, this doesn't apply to like all other regions. Obviously America right here, or English speakers or English players are overwhelmingly on the positive end, but this is still pretty crazy, especially because like Japan is like the home country. That's actually nuts. So now, just to kind of touch base on the issues, and I'm sure you guys already all knew this, especially if you think about how PC, the Steam reviews is where a majority of those negative reviews are coming from. It goes without saying, but it was a very, very, very poor PC port, right? From day one. And, despite multiple updates coming out, it's always been an up and downhill battle, right? With the game. Especially when it comes to like PC running the game, there's been a bunch of people that have been having issues with booting the game in general, frequent game crashes. I myself have had issues with game crashes. I had, for people that actually watch my, watch my streams. Yeah, you guys probably saw that I managed to pick up a handicraft and razor decoration, razor sharp decoration, only for the game to crash on me while examining other decorations in the reward screen, which is absolutely abysmally depressing, right? Because that's like a god tier freaking decoration. And it happened on multiple occasions too. I'm certainly not the only person that's ever had those issues before, right? There are other people that have also had issues with the game crashing in various different places during like story, during the middle of a single player quest, multiplayer quests, and just various other random stuff, right? And it's very clear that the game needed much more development time, at least for the PC port, right? Or at least a lot more bug testing needed to be performed, right? Now, very quickly, when it comes to PC porting, guys, and I'm sure a lot of you guys already know this, PC porting can be very, very, very difficult, right? Because there's a large variation in the amount of hardware that is being configured to create these builds, which means that there's a large variety of challenges for developers to basically kind of overcome, right? There's not a one size fits all type of thing. It's not like you develop for the PlayStation and literally everyone else that has a PlayStation will be able to run the game no problem. PC is a lot different, more of a monster, and Capcom has always been not great with PC ports, to my knowledge, right? They have said that they've been trying to make sure that they, think of the PC players and the PC community in mind, and that they wanted to try and develop more PC ports, right out the gate. Great on them, right? If I'm not mistaken, RE4 Remake ran pretty well for me personally on PC. Street Fighter 6 runs pretty well on PC. I don't know if it had any launch issues, but it's really damn good right now, at least from what I've been playing. It's just kind of a shame that with Monster Hunter Wild specifically, there's been a bunch of issues. A bunch of my friends have had issues. I'm sure your friends have had issues. Streamers that you know of, everyone's having issues. So it's kind of whack. And I'm also seeing in the chat right now that the game's CPU usage is abnormally very, very high. Yeah, I mean, it just goes back to the whole point of, you know, there being poor optimization for the PC port, right? Maybe poor optimization for the game in general, but, you know, our main thing here is talking about the PC port. Now, obviously, if you have an old computer, you're kind of SOL, you just need to upgrade, right? But if you have, like, for example, I have a 3080 Ti with a 5950X. I should be able to run this no problem, even if I'm streaming, right? For whatever reason, I'm still having issues. I always update my drivers. You know, drivers shouldn't always be the issue. So, you know, what the heck? But, you know, let's move on with the presentation. I don't want to spend too much time just complaining about my own issues. These are just an example of some of the reviews you'll find on PC. A lot of them tend to be pointing towards performance or optimization. My grandma runs better than this game. Gave me a good laugh when I first saw that. Performance, this is a positive review, right? But they're even saying that performance is rough, right? If you can run it, it is absolutely incredible. And in the case that you can't, it kind of sucks. This guy paid $70 just to boot a crash report. That is a horrible, horrible, horrible thing to come into, right? And the thing is that games aren't cheap, especially if you're buying games at like full pop. Right when the game comes out, that's a $70 investment. Heck, it's about to be $80, especially with like the Switch 2 games and potential price tags for, you know, generation of games from here on out. So, you know, it's a very feels bad if you can't play the game smoothly, or if you can't even boot the game at all on PC, right? So, and this guy right here says, save your money. This game needs to cook for an additional 1 to 2 years and get an expansion like Sunbreak or Iceberg before it's worthy of its current price. And I hate that I agree with this, but I can't help but agree with this because of how strongly I feel about the current state of Monster Hunter Wilds currently. And I love the game. I really do enjoy it. I feel that if I had paid $70 for the game, I would have gotten my money's worth despite all the crashing, right? But that's also because I'm a diehard Monster Hunter fan. I don't think I would be able to recommend this to anyone else unless I was able to promise them that they weren't going to have any issues. So just a heads up. Now, this is another point of conflict right here that I kind of want to bring up to you guys. But according to Shin, Capcom recently had a shareholders meeting, and one of the questions was about Monster Hunter Wilds performance. And this is a kicker, right? Because if you look right here, there have been concerns raised regarding recent titles, including insufficient content, volume, and optimization issues. What are the company's plans for addressing these matters going forward, right? If I'm not mistaken, I think like the Q4 fiscal year ends, or the fiscal year ends in like what, March or something like that, right? Is that, someone correct me if I'm wrong, but basically the rumor is that Capcom's shareholders basically rushed the release of the game. Is it March? Okay, there you go. So they basically wanted to make their bottom line look a lot bigger, a lot better, and that's why they pushed Monster Hunter Wilds for that end of February release, when we probably needed another 2 to 6 months of development for the purposes of bug testing and polishing. Whether or not this is true, and this was pushed by shareholders, I don't know if there's any for sure way for us to know that this is what exactly happened, right? We don't know for a fact. We don't know. But the thing is that it's not unbelievable, right? Because the thing is that game companies at the end of the day are businesses, right? They provide the product, ergo the game, and then we, the customers, buy into it, and we find value in the amount of fun, or, you know, whatever meaning you want to place on the game. But basically, we buy into it, we play it. If we don't like it, we don't buy it, right? If it's not worth it to us, we don't tell other people to buy the game. So it's a cycle. They kind of get what they want at that point. So the game released and tons of people bought it. They just had a shit time. Yeah, exactly. The thing that sucks, right, is that sure, their bottom line looks good, but now Capcom, specifically the Monster Hunter team, is now suffering at the end of that, because even if your sales are good, your sales mean nothing in the long term if you tarnish your reputation, right? Because You might put out a banger of a product that's great for the first day, but if it sucks the next day, no one's gonna want to play it anymore, right? People are least likely to recommend the product, and that's what ends up being kind of painful for the company. Before I get lost in the mountain of possibilities that could be explained, there's a very, very good chance that Capcom was forced to release the game early. I personally would like to believe that that was the case, because this is something that you hear all the time, right? You look at CD Projekt Red and the release of Cyberpunk 2077? Cyberpunk, right? That game also came out in a very half-baked state, right? And it was made very clear that development was rushed. So, you know, it just makes sense, right? Like, I understand the need and the want to make a bigger profit or to push your bottom line by the end of the cycle, but it just ends up creating such a terrible, terrible, long-lasting, long-term stain on the company that's working for you. And it sucks for the players too. Luckily, CDPR had enough of a following that people believe they would fix the ain't true for Capcom. Exactly. I mean, Capcom already has a reputation of being kind of like money grubby, especially when it comes to like DLC, because there's like a lot of paid DLC cosmetics. All of us Monster Hunter fans know, especially when it came with World, when it came with World, especially with Rise Sunbreak. There was a bunch, like $200 plus worth of like cosmetics in World and in Rise. So just, you know, just so we're clear, you know, they do have a history of creating a lot of these cosmetics that are paywalled, which really suck. Obviously, they have to make their money. Maybe whether or not this is a shareholder influenced decision or if it's a company influenced decision, I don't know. That's something that I don't plan on discussing, especially because I don't have any concrete, any solid information as to whether or not that is true. So we're going to singular Street Fighter 6 emotes for $4 each was mind-blowing, right? And that's like what, Hadouken, the Shoryuken, right? And was it the Tatsumaki? Was it there 3, right? In addition to having to pay for the costumes separately. That's definitely something that is causing an issue, right? I'm pretty sure that this is related to a lot of the other issues I'm going to explain, but I just wanted to preface one thing. Anything that I talk about from here on out is basically just going to be, it's going to be partially fact and partially something that I have observed in addition to what I think may be potentially resonating with the community. You know, very simply put, there was a very, very poor endgame, right? Like every Monster Hunter that we've had has had some form of endgame. I'm going to cite more specifically World, and I don't know if I can really talk much about Rise, but at least World, we had a lot of stuff to kind of go for, right? In World, we at least had layered armor, layered weapons to grind for. Actually, I don't think we had layered weapons in base World, but we sure as hell had it in Iceborne. But we had layered armor in World, in addition to World augments. So you had like health augment, affinity augment, attack augment, and stuff like that. You know, in addition to grinding for decorations, we had a lot more kind of going in that regard, and that was just right out the gate. I don't think we necessarily had to wait for other stuff, right? Because we had tempered monsters in base game. The decos being too easily grindable and obtainable in Monster Hunter Wilds, in addition to arcane weapons being introduced way too early in the game's life cycle, it kind of creates for a poor endgame in Monster Hunter Wilds, in my personal opinion. But in addition to the lack of endgame, or the absence of a great endgame, we have a lack of content, right? There's a bunch of people complaining about how there was no Gathering Hall in launch. We only have 2 arenas as of Title Update 1, which is when the Gathering Hall came out, right? It was Title Update 1. We had 0 on launch, which is terrible. All we had was like the Hallowed Grounds, which isn't really a replacement for the arena. And we recently have Star 8-star monsters introduced into the game now as a Title Update 1. But the thing is that there's no incentive for it, right? It's similar to how like we had Apex monsters in Monster Hunter Rise, but there was like little to no reward for grinding Apex monsters. You guys catch me? Also, the content flow is a lot less impactful and much slower compared to the release speeds of World and Rise. And to back that up, I actually have a small little infographic courtesy of Shinkai. But one point that I forgot to mention about the end game. So you know how we have RT and weapons, right? Like, it's cool that you can RNG grind out and roll like the stats on your weapons. It's very equivalent to Safi Jiva, but the thing is that it's way too good way too early on. It also trivializes making it basically makes making other weapons pointless, right? That's part of the reason why I primarily feel that having RT weapons being introed this early on in the game, like right as soon as you finish the game, this being the end game is not it, in my personal opinion, right? But moving on. This is the infographic that I was telling you about. You guys have probably seen this on Twitter. Oh, sorry, on X, courtesy of Shin. This is very straightforward. From the top, you have Monster Hunter World. You have Rise in the middle right here. And then you also have Wilds right here. And then all the numbers that you see at the top, those are days since release, right? Right out the gate, we had a USJ collab in addition to a Horizon Zero Dawn collab in World, right? And then around the 21st day, we had the Street Fighter 5 collab. Granted, the Street Fighter 5 collab wasn't anything too crazy. It was still pretty cool though, because, you know, we got Street Fighter skins with Sakura and Ryu. And we also had emotes like Hadouken and Shoryuken that actually did something in the game, right? After a month of release, Rise already had their first title update, right? With a bunch of all these elders right here. Title update 1 for us came in Wilds after about 35 days or so, and it only gave us 2 things in terms of monsters. We finally got a grindable Zoshia as well as Mizutsune, which is cool. But then that's when we finally got the Gathering Hub in addition to the arenas. Does the World Timeline start after console release, or was it PC? I'm pretty sure it was after console release, if I'm not being mistaken. Mind you, Rise is also during COVID. Correct. Rise's development cycle was in the middle of COVID. I know Wild's development, according to what I was reading online, I don't have a source to quote, but Wild's also started development around COVID, right? But it had a lot more time out of it, if I'm not mistaken too. So, but yeah, you guys can clearly see that there's a lot more stacked in terms of like actual content for World especially, right? We had a lot of stuff in Monster Hunter World. I mean, heck, at the 83 day mark, right? That's like what? That's like a little bit less than 3 months, right? At title update 2, we had Kulf Taroth, which is something that kept the community super duper busy, right? Whereas once we hit the 3 month mark for Monster Hunter Wilds, we only got the Street Fighter 5 collab with new investigations, which isn't anything crazy. And that's pretty much all we've gotten. So people comparing Wilds to Rise to World, people that played World, played Rise, are understandably frustrated with how we have a severe lack of content with Wild. And the thing is too, right, is that there's a lot of allegations or a lot of people accusing that with the accusations that title update 1 and basically everything we had in title update 1, and I think some people are also accusing of title update 2, but I'm gonna keep this in title update 1. Title update 1 was all cut content being repackaged as a title update. So it was content that was originally supposed to be in the game, cut out and put into title update 1. Now, the thing is, a lot of what people are probably basing this off of is data mines, possibly leaks, right? The thing is with leaks, guys, is that leaks aren't always trustworthy. Everything that's in a leak isn't always accurate, right? Unless the company comes out and says that this is what's going to happen, the leaks aren't always true. And like anyone that's ever played a gacha game, right? If you've ever played, you know, Genshin, ZZZ, HSR, WoWa, it doesn't matter, right? When people talk about leaks, I think leaks in terms of like gacha games aren't terrible, right? Especially when it's about characters. If it's about story, that's a different story altogether. I hate story leaks, right? I despise them, right? I don't care if I see them. I hate it when other people are exposed to them, especially when they didn't ask for it, right? But in the case of gacha games, right, you kind of want to know where your resources are going, because you have to spend a crap ton of time in game in order to earn those resources and purchase characters, right, using the currency that you earn in the game, right? So you want to know where your time is being invested in. You want to know where your what's it called? Where your time is being invested, where your resources are going, right? So that makes total sense. But in terms of like a video game, right? Like a game where, you know, you're paying a flat price for the game. Why are you spoiling all this crap for other people, right? You know, it's just so unnecessary, and it really sucks, right? For the community as a whole. Now, some people enjoy that. Some people like that. That's great. That's cool. Keep it to yourself. That's how I feel about leaks in general, guys. That's why anytime anyone discusses any leaks on the channel, I instantly shut it down. I don't allow for any discussion of leaks in Discord or on the channel, right? Out of respect to everyone else that is trying to stay spoiler free, or, you know, data mining free, you know. Apparently, I can see from the chat, all the monsters time to update to Lagiacrus and another Lagiacrus. Apparently, Lagiacrus is also supposedly cut content, guys. But the thing is that, again, I don't know if there's a way to potentially confirm this. Even if you can potentially confirm this, I'd rather just, if it didn't come from the company's mouth, I'm not going to believe it. Because at the end of the day, what's being presented in front of me, unless it's coming from the company, it doesn't mean anything to me personally, right? Probably one of the things that sucks about leaks is that it can create a big problem with pushing false narratives, right? Especially when something is being perceived as cut content. You know, like I said, you have no way of knowing whether or not something was actually cut, intentionally pushed back, or if this was like, you know, part of the company's plan. You take that misinformation, you spread it as fact, it ends up creating a huge negative impact on the community, and it's not a good thing, right? I don't want to digress too far away from the topic, so I'll just leave it at that. But again, you know, if you guys like leaks, that's cool. Just keep it to yourself. Don't spread it to anyone else. And then, you know, obviously people online are going to suck. If you're trying to avoid leaks, it's going to be difficult sometimes. Only thing that you can really do is just set up your filters and just stay away from suspicious, you know, sites. You know, like you guys are saying in the chat, Reddit is a very huge area of you know, where a lot of the leaks get spread and put around. Leaks can be good. It's not a low tier vegetable, but there are better choices. Yeah. Well, see, here's the thing. Leaks can be good, absolutely. Right? Because like I said, with like in terms of gacha games can help. Gacha game leaks, especially when it comes to like character releases, it can help you better plan how you want to spend your resources, right? Because at the end of the day, your satisfaction with the game, so long as it's not impeding on someone else's satisfaction, is important. You know what I mean? Besides, leaks can sometimes, especially when it's handled great, it can get people hyped, right? It can also be a potential net positive for the community, right? It's like, holy crap, this is going to happen. That's awesome, right? But I mean, as a rule of thumb, guys, not a lot of people, not everyone wants to see these leaks, right? It's fine if you discuss it, but you just have to discuss it with the people that do want to be a part of that discussion. Whereas the majority of other people, like myself, don't want to be a part of that discussion. So I'll go ahead and talk about very, very quickly some of the things that also are contributing to the negative reviews on PC, right? And these are more so not necessarily PC specific, but these are just general observations as to why people don't enjoy WoWs as much as they would like to. And gameplay balance is a very big offender, if I'm being totally honest. Originally, when I first started playing Wilds, guys, I actually really liked the Focus Strike system. I thought the wounding system was great, but the more I played it, and after maybe about 2 months of digesting the game's systems and mechanics, it's kind of a little too heavy in the player's favor. Now, obviously, this is more so, you know, this might be a little bit more subjective. You guys are more than welcome to have a different opinion, whether you agree or you disagree with my points. That's totally fine. I think us having different opinions is great for the community, there's not going to be a one size shoe fits all for every single player in the Monster Hunter player base, and that's okay, right? But the question is finding a sweet spot where the most amount of players can be satisfied, or as close to satisfaction as we can get. And the biggest offender, in my current opinion, is the focus strike and wounding system, because there's a lot of reasons why you want to use the focus strike. If you're playing longsword, it helps you build meter. Same thing with insect glaive. You know, it can help you get your savage axe mode back and charge blade and whatnot. The list goes on, guys. But the thing is that it's super heavily abusable, especially because you can use it to like flinch and topple. It's one thing if you can use wounds to create these, you know, to generate resources. I think that's fine. I don't think the resource generation is as big of a problem. But being able to easily flinch a monster out of an attack animation or just topple them for free damage, that is extremely egregious. In addition to the lack of attack commitment. This is something that I think is a mixed bag, because I think there's a good number of people that actually enjoy a lot of weapons like Greatsword, Gunlance, and Charge Blade, because you can position so easily with the Focus Strike. Like, you can literally do a 360-degree spin with the Greatsword TCS, right? Same thing with Wyvern's Fire or Wyvern's Breath with Gunlance, and you doing an SAED. You can easily just reposition and change the angle freely, whereas they used to be high commitment attacks. You had to position ahead of time. You had to time these things. And a lot of people that are veterans will argue that not having those things kind of takes away the identity, in addition to the nuance of these weapons. It makes it way too, I don't want to say too easy, but I think that's probably the only word that I'll be able to come up with, right? It makes it too easy. You know, you basically get a get out of free jail card, or get out of jail free card, without having to commit to anything that you do, right? Now, obviously, there are other issues, like, for example, Longsword is able to cancel out of Helmbreaker. I, as a Longsword main, personally like the change, but you know, it just goes back to the lack of friction that the game is kind of notorious for. Now, again, this is a mixed bag. If you like it, you like it. If you don't like it, you don't like it. I don't think anyone's right or wrong. But this is personally what I feel is contributing to the some of the issues that a lot of players are kind of like resonating with right now. Another mechanic that I think that might be a little too much is perfect guard, because there is literally no drawback to doing a perfect guard, right? You can perfect guard and like you're good, right? If you can guard, you're good. You got Greatsword, you can guard, you're good. You can perfect guard for free, right? It's just too easy, right? And all these things right here, they contribute a little too much in the overall power of the player over the monster, to the point where it makes the game feel a little bit too easy, which is a follow-up point that I have coming up pretty soon. So it invalidates perfect guard for charge blade. No, I think what you mean is that it invalidates the usefulness or the reason to use a guard point. Yeah, okay, there you go. Perfect evades. The thing with perfect evades is, I think perfect evades is also something that could potentially be more balanced, but because I don't play a lot of weapons, or I haven't played a lot of weapons to an extensive degree to be able to formulate an opinion on that, I won't be able to comment on that. But I think that it is something that should potentially be looked at too. Maybe more costs of stamina in order to pull off the perfect evasion, and then in return you get these resources back, like you get demon gauge back for dual blades, or you get trick gauge back heavily for bow. But you know, we can talk about that in the discussion section later, guys. Very quickly, there's a lack of difficulty and a lack of friction. This is something that I actually was on the opposite end of. I used to think that the game was just fine, that maybe people were overreacting and forgetting that, like, you know, the beginning of World and Rise were a little on the easier side too. I used to kind of have the stance that, like, you know, if you're a veteran, you have hours upon hours upon hours of experience that other players that are coming new to the series don't have, right? I used to think that. And to a certain degree, I still think that kind of holds true. But the thing is, guys, and I kind of touched base on it a little earlier, but I mean, especially since like the power is so heavily geared towards the player, that already makes it way easier, right? In addition to monsters having like literally no health, they die really easily. And a lot of the monsters in the beginning of the game, they don't really threaten you at all. I've heard countless stories of people playing through the game without making any armor until like the very end, or if at all, right? And saying that they literally just did not need it. Now, obviously, it depends on how you're playing. If you're staying on your sacred and you were abusing like LBG, HBG, spread shots or something like, I forgot what it was that was like highly abusable. But if you're doing that, yeah, you're not gonna have an issue. If you're playing range and you always stay range, you never get a monster too close to you, you're not gonna have an issue. If you have a shield, you're great at perfect guarding, you're not gonna have an issue. You know, other people will have different gameplay experiences, and that's totally valid too. But I think on a general basis, the monsters in wilds, they kind of lack for health. They kind of lack for a bit of attack power too. If you think about it, like the game definitely is a newcomer and solo experience focused. I mean, if you just like pay attention to the story, right, and the way that it's like flowed, it definitely makes you feel like you're doing a solo experience, especially because there's so many on rails like traveling sections where you're forced to sit in this 5 to 10 minute section of walking through the Scarlet Forest, looking at like footprints and stuff like that, or sitting with freaking you know, with Alma or something like that. It sucks. But I think one of the bigger things too, these three things right here, if there's anything that I want you guys to focus on, is these three things here. There's not a lot of monsters that poses as walls. The only wall that I personally felt was a wall in Monster Hunter Wilds was probably freaking Gore Magala, right? Because that area is tiny as heck, right? That area is insanely tiny as heck. You can't really do much there, and like the attack patterns on like Gore Magala are nuts. But because there's a lack of walls in Monster Hunter, it basically creates a lack of actual need for armor upgrades. Maybe you might want to upgrade your weapon so that you don't take, you know, more than 10 minutes to actually beat a monster, but the actual like defensive aspect of it, kind of needless. Your Palico used to support you too frequently, right? You used to get healed and revived so much. It's thankfully reduced now, but it doesn't change the fact that the first 3 months worth of adapting to the game were probably a little too easy. And this goes back to focus attacks, but monster drops are way too frequent because of the way that wounds work. Like they need to be dialed down, right? Because this goes back to lack of, well, it doesn't really link to this, but you can basically create like weapon and gear within like 2 or 3 hunts, and that it kind of is counterintuitive to the whole idea of Monster Hunter. A lot of people that play Monster Hunter are used to the idea of grinding armor pieces. Now, I will say, as a working adult in their 30s and is busy with their time, I'm fully employed. I work 40 hours a week. I do content creation in addition to, like, you know, I have a girlfriend. I also have a lot of social social obligations. The less time I have to spend playing this game to build stuff in order to progress the game is a godsend for me. That's like amazing. But the thing is, it sucks as a game, right? I would rather there be more reason for me to grind for these things outside of just making them for the sake of making them. Now, another thing too, guys, is the conceptual execution. They used to like make a whole big deal out of like the alpha monsters, and all we really got was this guy right here, the Alpha Doshiguma, right? Like literally they introduced alphas only for it to be about Alpha Doshiguma, and it feels like an idea that was like half-baked, poorly executed, or they just forgot about it, that it existed, and just never did anything with it again. You get packs, right? You have packs like Yeon Kuku or Hirabami and stuff like that, but literally Alpha Doshiguma is the only guy that's an alpha, right? It's kind of stupid, right? They could easily have done something like, oh, if you hunt an alpha monster variant of like a young cuckoo, you get more rewards, or you're more likely to get rare rewards. But, you know, that obviously a concept that failed very, very miserably. Frenzy monsters even suck? Yeah, frenzy monsters even suck, guys. But we'll move on from there. Menu Hell! As you guys know, the first week of trying to play multiplayer in Monster Hunter was riddled with a lot of confusion, to the point where they had to create guides on the official Twitter in order to explain how multiplayer works. Story progression. Very quickly, we move from region to region way too quick. Too much time traveling on rails. We probably needed more key quests in between chapters to pad out some of the content. Maybe give more attention to some of these monsters. Force us to fight some of these monsters a little bit more. You know, There probably needed to be a separation between story versus multiplayer, right? That probably could have fixed the whole issue of locking the Gathering Hall in terms of story. And also the inability to experience story together seamlessly, right? The thing that sucks is that this is the same issue that World had, where you literally have to see the cutscene first on your end before you can join another person and do the story quest together. It's so stupid. I don't understand why they still haven't figured this out, but I really hope they figure it out. Now, I know we just went over like a lot of like, you know, negative points that hit against Monster Hunter Wilds. I'm not trying to bash the game heavily. These are concerns, and these are observations that I've noticed from other players, in addition to, you know, just the general community. And these are some of my personal observations as well, obviously, right? That I think that, you know, these are some things that probably resonate with a lot of people, that also probably potentially largely contribute to a lot of the bad reviews. Now, the thing is that the game is great. It's fun. It really is, right? I mean, for starters, great accessibility. We have this on all platforms, right? In addition to it being the first monster that has actual cross-platform playing, not that we had with cross and double cross. You know, we have proper cross-platform playing, right? There's lots of resources for players to onboard a lot easier. We have in-game guides, tips, monster handbooks, videos that show people how to do these things to play the actual game. And the game is extremely visual pleasing. Whether or not you like the RE engine, you have to admit that the game looks damn good. The character models are some of the best character models we've ever seen. Easily. You know, even the main character, your character looks really good. And to the point where his or her or their inclusion in the story makes them actually feel like an actual character in the world. They play a major pivotal part of the story. And the game is very mechanically fun, right? Regardless of whether or not I feel that there are things that I wish they would change in terms of the focus strike system, the wounding system, and so on and so forth. The game is still very mechanically fun. It's very grounded, just the way that a lot of us Monster Hunter players like, and it's not too over the top. I mean, obviously you might agree, you might disagree with that. And whether or not you agree or disagree, changing the skill system, I personally think this was a good thing, right? And the reason why is it changes the way that we have to play the game, right? Whether or not you like it or not, I know a lot of us probably don't like it, especially because there's a lot of skills that get thrown on weapons that don't make sense. I forgot what weapon it was, but I think it was like a gun lance that had crit draw. Why would you put crit draw on a freaking gun lance? There's like zero benefit to putting crit draw on a freaking gun lance. This game also has easily one of the best character creators in the history of the franchise. And this actually currently, as of right now, has the best Street Fighter collab up to date, because it's more than just skins. You can actually do a lot of things with the game mechanically, which is amazing. Super amazing. Now, would I recommend Monster Hunter Wilds to anyone? And the answer to that, guys, is yes and no. And the reason why, guys, this is a very mixed bag. The thing is that a lot of the goods about the game can heavily outweigh the bad, right? But the thing is that I feel like a lot of us might kind of forget, especially if you're a console player, right? Is that if you're having a smooth experience playing the game, you're able to play through the story, you're able to play online, you're not having any issues of disconnections, or if they do happen, they're very infrequent. That's great for you. You're more likely to be in a honeymoon phase a lot longer. You're more likely to not notice a lot of these issues that happen because they don't apply to you, right? But the thing is that these issues do exist. A lot of these issues still applied to some console players that were having issues with disconnects, or they were suffering some game-breaking bugs, like I think it was like 5.2a or something like that, 4.2a something, where an NPC wouldn't spawn, which effectively made it that you could not progress the story. It sucked, right? It was terrible for that group of people. It really sucks. The game is still really fun when it does work, but whenever you see a lot of these issues, I've had a lot of disconnects just trying to get like the graphical settings to work while I was streaming. It sucked, you know what I mean? So honestly, it's just like, if you're having these issues and you're paying $70 full pop for the game, feels bad. You feel like you just dropped $70 down the drain, especially if you're someone that like played the game for like the first 10 hours, you had a great time, update happened, you get screwed. You can't boot up the game anymore, or you start experiencing crashes or like just frame drops and stuff like that. It sucks, man. It's not cool. Like that's why it makes it really hard for me to want to recommend Wilds the way that it is right now until more updates and more optimizations are made. When will that happen? I don't know. No one knows, right? It's all kind of in Capcom's or the Monster Hunter dev team's hands right now, you know? But the thing is, I would still recommend this game to newcomers, right? I think for newcomers, guys, this is a great entry into the series. The reason why I would recommend it to newcomers, guys, is that, you know, the focus is a lot more on the narrative and getting straight into the action, right? You kind of get a little bit better of a feel of what Monster Hunter is all about, while having your hand heavily held. There's a lot of QOL that makes the friction of learning the game a lot less difficult. A majority of the weapons feel damn good. I think this is the first Monster Hunter where I actually feel like I actually want to play a lot of weapons. Actually, I've played like a majority of all the weapons. The only ones I haven't touched to a good degree just yet is like LBG, HBG. But most other weapon I have touched at least a small handful of times, you know? And I honestly feel that for the $70 that you pay, you're more likely, there's a very good chance that you're going to get your money's worth as of right now. Maybe not from launch, but right now you would probably still get your $70 worth. You would at least get 20 to 40 hours worth of quality game time, in my personal opinion. But the thing is that if you're someone that has not great PC specs, if you're a PC player, right, that's going to be more of a no, right? Because if you're already having issues with specs, you're going to have issues with this game, right? But the other thing is too, is that if you're a veteran and you're just now thinking about getting into Monster Hunter Wilds, it might make you want to think about it again because of how fast you'll kind of plow through this game. I would probably still recommend it to a veteran, but I would tell him just wait until the game goes on like sell, honestly. At least that way you'll feel that with a lot of the issues that you might potentially suffer in terms of like optimization, freezes, crashes, whatever, that it might still be worth that price tag. Maybe at like $35, $40 or no, something like that. Who knows? You know, you might just have to wait until the overall balance of the game is just changed. Or you might have to wait until all the title updates are released, or a title update that specifically speaks to you, or until an expansion comes out for you to actually finally pick up the game and feel like this is something I can recommend to you. It's tough, guys. It's definitely a yes and a no type of thing. I don't know. But I will say that there was one particular Steam review that I saw online that I think I want to share with you guys. I'm not going to read the whole thing to you because it's a whole ass essay. The guy has made a Japanese player on Steam. He made a long ass page of like comments, right? But I think this particular highlighted segment that I have prepared for you guys kind of sums up how I feel about Monster Hunter Wilds right now, and that's this right here. The problem in Monster Hunter Wilds is in its essence, and it's not something that can be solved with a simple update. So I recommend waiting for the expansion DLC, where I hope the developer takes their time and makes a big change to the UI and mechanics. It's a lot of things, a lot of things that need to be fixed with the game. It's just something that we can't really ignore. Like, the honeymoon phase is over, guys. It's been 3 months. The game needs a lot of work. They can definitely make things better by releasing more substantial title updates and not just like 2 monsters and 2 hub features that we probably should have had from the get-go. You know, it's tough. You know, I want to keep playing the game, but the problem is a lot of the people in my community, a lot of you guys are not playing the game right now. It sucks, guys. It really sucks. You want to play it, but you don't want to do it. I didn't upgrade my PC to play Valorant 7. But there's a lot of improvements that need to be made to the current endgame. Maybe we need to get like a siege/raid quest like Call of Taras and Safijiva, and have something replace RT weapons, because RT weapons kind of suck. They look like ass, and they are ass to farm. Simply put. There also needs to be a quest board for players to interact with, right? So you can go ahead and just go there and not worry about where the hell Alma is half the time. You know? Make it make sense. You know? A huge rebalance of some of the mechanics, including the frequency of monster drops from wounds, overall effectiveness of wounds, so less flinching, less toppling. Maybe more I already mentioned this too, but the more substantial and impactful title updates. More arena quests to be added as a base, because 2 arena quests technically we have three. I say, okay, so we technically have 4, but we really only have 3 right now, right? I don't count that extra Akuma freaking quest that we got. That's literally just the same quest, slightly harder, different loadout. I don't really count that, right? We need more than just 2 arena quests at launch. Heck, we needed arena quests from the very beginning, guys. Challenge quests should also be permanent, not cycled. They should just stay in the game. You can cycle out like the reward period and stuff like that. Just don't cycle out the freaking quests. We still need those. We need content, guys. And they also just need to take a lot more time to develop the game and overhaul in the expansion. You know, just a lot more time. Now, what can you as the player do? Take the player surveys. Make your voices heard. The community managers are really, really good about acting as a liaison for our voices, guys. You guys need to, whenever the player surveys come out, go ahead and take a look into those and make sure that you voice your opinions, things that you like, things that you dislike, and things that you wish to see change. The more people do this, the more it shows that it resonates with the community, the more likely the community managers are going to be able to represent that to the devs for them to make an actionable decision. It's very important that you take these player surveys, so please do that. You can see them on X. They get posted, I think, on all social media platforms. Just keep an eye out for it, do them whenever they come up, and just do the best you can, right? Stay informed. Engage in constructive discussions online, you know? Avoid rage baiters. Rage baiters suck. Don't engage with them. They're just trying to piss off people, right? Get a rise out of reaction, maybe get paid more on X because a lot of people's eyes are going there too. Just don't deal with them, right? Let them, and all the other, you know, man children that, you know, engage in the rage baiting and stuff like that. Just, there's gonna be people that suck that are gonna do it. They're gonna spread some kind of misinformation, or they're going to like take a small thing or a big thing and blow it up a lot larger than they actually are. Just don't give into it, guys. The other thing is too, is just consume news, opinions from various sources, from various creators, and formulate your own opinions, right? And last but not least, follow Monster Hunter Capcom community managers like on X, on Boosted Toast, Jonah Vanguard, Monster Hunter Official. It's probably where you're more likely, sorry, not more like, you're going to get accurate information from the community managers and from Monster Hunter themselves. So rely on those people, right? And sorry, I said last but not least, but this is what, oh, don't rely on leaks, guys. Leaks bad. Don't forget. Leaks super bad. And last but not least, if you are bored with Monster Hunter Wilds, please go play something else. There's nothing wrong with being bored with the game. You paid money for the game. If you're not enjoying it, drop it. Play something else. When Wilds becomes more interesting for you again, whether it be an update, a title update, or a change or an expansion, who knows? Who cares? Just pick it up then. Play it again then. Until then, don't feel like you have to play Wilds. I'm not playing Wilds. Also make a PowerPoint. Yes, exactly. Yeah, there's a whole bunch of games you could be playing right now. Expedition 33, Final Fantasy 16 got released on PC recently. Final Fantasy 7 Remake Part 2. You know, a whole bunch of games. I started getting into Street Fighter 6 Ranked, guys. Stellar Blade came out on PC recently, guys. You guys can be playing that too. Go into your heart's content. Here are some recommended media, guys. Like I mentioned earlier, a lot of the information, some of the all the infographics actually, with the exception of like the review posts, came from Shin. Shin is great when it comes to informational posts regarding Monster Hunter, and he does not do any leaked content, right? Yeah, exactly. Play previous Monster Hunters. What's up, Liz? Juzzy actually has a pretty good video in regards to the critique of Monster Hunter Wilds mechanics, a good majority of which I particularly resonate with. I think this is a very good watch. Please check it out. After I'm done with the stream, you guys can go ahead and just rewatch the VOD, pick this up. I'll probably put this up on YouTube too. And Maximilian actually has a very good comprehensive overall critique of Monster Hunter Wilds that I think is a good watch for you to help formulate and supplement your opinion about how you feel about Monster Hunter Wilds as a whole. Maybe some of the things might not necessarily apply now, considering the fact that we're about 3 months into the game with a bunch of updates and improvements made to the game. But it's still a worthwhile watch. Please check it out, guys. All the sources, so you guys know that I didn't bull crap anything. And yeah, that's it. That's the end of my presentation, guys. If you'd like to discuss, what we talked about today, or if there's anything that I might have potentially missed, feel free to speak about it. Otherwise, this is going to be the end of the video / presentation. Thank you for dedicating and giving me an hour of your time. Sorry, I probably bumbled and rambled a lot more than I thought I was going to, but I hope you guys enjoyed it nonetheless. If you guys enjoyed the stream, drop a follow, turn on the bell notifications to find out the next time I stream. Drop me a subscribe on YouTube too. This is probably where you'll find the VOD. So cool, that's it. See ya.